Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the 2024 campaign continues to heat up for both parties after Vice President Kamala Harris chose her running mate. Plus, Senator Mitch McConnell stopped in Kentucky to give an update for his future and his priorities in the Senate.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Madison Carmouche, and we are coming up on 6 o'clock this morning, and many of you may be getting ready for your first day of school. So let's send it over to meteorologist Mace Michaels for a look at your forecast.
When you step outside this morning, Madison, you'll begin the day feeling pretty comfortable. Upper 60s, 70s, not a bad beginning to the day. As you look here in Whitesburg, the sky is mostly clear. As you travel around eastern Kentucky, you will run into some foggy patches and some low clouds. You notice here in the background in Hazard, you can see some of that cloud cover just hanging over the hills and the mountains, and we will have that on and off throughout the morning. And then this afternoon, it looks just plain old hot with a couple of storms trying to fire. Our hazard temp at 68, visibility in Williamsburg, very low, under a quarter mile, even near zero at the last check. Harlan visibility has been fluctuating from a mile to 4, same thing here in Hazard. So watch out for your travels this morning. As you're moving around the area, you will run into some lower visibility in pockets. Wake-up temperatures are in the mid-60s around Clintwood and Wise. Otherwise, it's lots of upper 60s and low 70s to start off your morning. Satellite's pretty quiet, limited cloud cover to show you here today. We will only see those storms popping up later this afternoon. And of course, as I mentioned, some of the foggy areas this morning. So out to the bus stop we go from upper 60s now to low 90s later, Madison, with a few storms firing up.
Thanks, Mace. Vice President Kamala Harris and her newly picked running mate, Tim Walz, held their first rally together in Philadelphia on Tuesday. In the days ahead, they'll visit battleground states before the Democratic National Convention this month in Chicago. CBS News correspondent Carissa Lawson reports from New York.
Vice President Kamala Harris introduced her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, to a crowd of thousands in Philadelphia and to millions of voters across the country.
He's the kind of person who makes people feel like they belong and then inspires them to dream big. And that's the kind of vice president he will be.
This first stop for the Harris-Walz ticket kicks off a tour to at least 5 other battleground states over the next few days.
This campaign, our campaign, is not just a fight against Donald Trump.
In his remarks, the 60-year-old governor also went on the offensive against former President Donald Trump and his VP running mate, J.D. Vance, saying he can't wait to debate him.
That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see.
Rallying earlier Tuesday, also in Philadelphia, Vance said he'll debate Walz after the Democratic National Convention.
That is what's so scandalous about Kamala Harris's basement campaign. 16 days she has been the presumptive nominee of the Democrat Party. 0 times she has sat for a real media interview. That's a disgrace.
The Trump campaign released a new video attacking Harris for her VP pick.
Kamala Harris just doubled down on her radical vision for America,
saying, quote, Tim Walz will be a rubber stamp for Kamala's dangerously liberal agenda. Carissa Lawson, CBS News, New York.
Harris's VP announcement has also raised questions like what's next for Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Beshear was previously considered on the unofficial shortlist of VP contenders. We talked to political science experts who say the governor's fate is really anyone's guess. He has previously stated he would be open to going where he feels he can best serve Kentuckians, but the opportunities for him to do so are limited.
There are lots of opportunities to serve your country if that is what he wants to do. But in terms of Kentucky politics, this is pretty much the end of that unless he wants to run for Senate, which I don't foresee.
In a statement from Governor Beshear, he says although it was an honor to be considered in the VP vetting process, Tim Walz is, quote, a great friend and a great choice. It's been 8 months since a terror in the sky Passengers on an Alaska Airlines jet left helpless as their airplane door flew open mid-flight. Now the NTSB is demanding answers under oath. Our Washington Bureau correspondent Molly Martinez brings us the latest from the investigation.
The question at the heart of this multi-day investigation is how 4 bolts on this door went missing, causing it to open up mid-flight. Chaos in the cabin. On January 5th, at an altitude of 16,000 feet, the door of a Boeing 737 MAX jet blew open as a result of rapid decompression. The NTSB described the scene Tuesday.
It was very noisy and difficult to communicate among themselves and with the cabin crew. The flight crew immediately contacted air traffic control, executed emergency procedures, landed on runway 28 left, and taxied to the gate without further incident.
All of the 177 passengers survived. The NTSB is now tasked with figuring out how this catastrophe took flight.
This isn't a PR campaign for Boeing. What we want to know is what happened.
Preliminary investigations point to missing bolts as part of the problem, but transcripts released Tuesday show a culture of cutting corners. Those who worked on the line describe a rushed Boeing assembly plant with emphasis on quantity over quality in an effort to keep up with demand.
We had approved ourselves to build at a baseline rate of 38 aircraft per month, but we were producing at a rate lower than that, upper 20s to low 30s.
Boeing witnesses appeared Tuesday as a result of subpoenas. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy vowed to conduct a thorough investigation.
We will not leave until all questions are asked.
In Washington, I'm Molly Martinez.
This is far from the first incident with the plagued 737 MAX jets. Just 2 weeks ago in July, a Korean Air flight experienced cabin pressure failures 30 minutes after takeoff. That flight was forced into an emergency landing. Fayette County Attorney Angela Evans has concerns about Ohio's recreational marijuana sales going live and Kentuckians shopping at a dispensary and potentially bringing it back into the Commonwealth. She wants to remind people that Ohio has its laws and Kentucky has its own state laws. Lauren Bratcher is the Deputy Director of Kentucky NORML, part of a national organization that has fought to reform marijuana laws since 1971.
And I do think a lot of people are going to go to Ohio to purchase. People already go to all the other recreational markets like Michigan.
We asked Bratcher if she's concerned about Kentuckians bringing marijuana products back home. She says she believes it should not be a concern for anyone since she says Kentucky destroys more cannabis every year. She adds a lot of states grow legally and it is already here. It is already being used and being imported. Senator Mitch McConnell visited McCreary County on Tuesday where he gave an update from Washington and talked about his future. WYMT's Caroline Mueller was there.
Senator Mitch McConnell addressed members of the McCreary County community, including some state and county leaders. He began on an international level, highlighting his pro-military stance.
There is some movement in the direction of isolationism in our country, and I think that is a really dangerous thing to our future.
The war in Ukraine and U.S. involvement in Middle Eastern conflict were major topics. When talking about the defense budget, he explained it is cheaper to be prepared for war and praised NATO, while saying other countries are looking to us for guidance.
Trust me, there's nobody else in the democratic world that has the clout and the sway that we do.
He then outlined what he sees as the most pressing issues facing the nation and the Commonwealth.
The two biggest national problems are inflation and the border.
He describes these issues as, quote, unforced errors created by the current administration.
Not a mistake that they made, but they wanted to do it, and we're paying the price for it.
McConnell also addressed his decision to step down as the party's leader.
What I want to focus on for the next couple of years is helping Kentucky in every single way that I can, and we've tried to do that over and over again.
Chamber of Commerce President for the county, Michelle Perry, says she hopes McConnell will put his focus towards small businesses.
Our community is made up of small businesses, so that would be where we would hope he'd put his focus towards.
McConnell ended by reflecting on his years in Congress and says he hopes his leadership has changed the way people think of Kentucky. In McCreary County, Caroline Mueller, WYMT, Mountain News.
Senator McConnell will officially step away from his position as the Republican Party's leader in November, but he will remain an active member of the Senate.
Madison, we're looking at a comfortable morning this morning with temperatures right around 70 degrees, warm weather, hot temperatures later on today with some storms popping up. You look in the background here in London, Corbin at the airport, it's mostly sunny. There is some foggy patches to talk about in the area. You can see some of those clouds and a little bit of haze here in the background. As you look here through Hazard, 68 our temperature right now here at Hazard. Visibility is pretty low there around Williamsburg. You notice it's near zero, so close to the interstate, etc. Watch out if you're traveling around those areas. You head around some of the mountains and the curves, you can go from great visibility to near zero. So you know those spots that can happen in sometimes. So watch out for that. Otherwise, it's just a plain old warm morning from mid-60s in Clintwood and Wise to upper 60s and low 70s everywhere else. And notice on the satellite radar, limited cloud cover, not too many clouds to show you all across the region. So that'll lead us to a sunny day today, Madison, as we get you out the door. Our high temperatures will be into the upper 80s and low 90s. Hot weather for us.
Thanks, Mace, and thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. When we return, a local school is helping students get ahead by helping them fill out FAFSA.